Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's up guys, Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review, and for this review Duncan Kyle and I have been checking out the new album from UK Blackened Sludge quintet, Mastiff. The band's new album Leave Me the Ashes of Earth will be released on September 10th via eOne. So this is album number 3 from Mastiff, coming 2 years after their 2019 release Plague. Conceived during a pandemic-forced longest stretch between Mastiff records, the record paints on the band's familiar canvas, but with a far larger palette than ever before. The album was crafted in just 5 days at No Studio with producer Joe Clayton. So it's been a minute since I've listened to Mastiff, but I must admit I was quite excited when I'd heard they'd signed to eOne, which is kind of huge.
It's a fucking massive label for a band that sounds like this, right? So...
Yeah, absolutely. Mastiff were quite a kind of underground band, so to sign with a label this size, and they've got some huge bands, similar bands, like Crowbar and High on Fire and stuff are on that label, but I'm really chuffed for the band that they're getting a bit of a kind of bigger spotlight on them. But I was just as excited to hear this new material as well. Plague, if you've never heard it, was a raw fucking album. I think it was a kind of recorded live in the studio type affair, just over a couple of days. And it had that feel, of a band just getting in a room and cranking the amps to 11 and just kind of letting that like bleak, corrosive sound just rip for 30 minutes. And I kind of thought, like, going at this one, it was going to be a very similar affair to Plague in terms of the tone of the album. I was all ready to be steamrollered by that kind of caustic kind of wall of sound from Mastiff. And I'm kind of glad to hear that they haven't veered too far from the playbook. This is still very much a Mastiff album. It's filthy. It's brimming with riffs that will erode your ear canals. They still like to keep things interesting stylistically. It doesn't, sit too long within one particular style that that you'll switch off from kind of what's going on. They obviously have that like sludge element at their core, but they will quite as easily slip into some grindcore or a bit of kind of blackened hardcore, or go down that like kind of nails like Powerviolence route as well. But whatever style they kind of decide to lean into on this album, it definitely felt more refined this time around. I think you can definitely hear within the transitions between their styles. They're definitely slicker. They've got a much better grasp on when to change it up and when to let a particular style kind of just ride it out. And I think that balance is one of the things that probably kept me engaged the most on Leave Me the Ashes of Earth. Going from Fail, which is that kind of a very turbulent, almost kind of death metal ferocity to begin with, but just when you're kind of in need of something a bit more steady, they drop a gear and just let the kind of sludgy kind of groove riffs kind of flow, and not in a pleasant kind of upbeat way. These riffs are still like dripping in misery, and you hear it again on Repulse, where although it has a groove, those kind of dissonant kind of squeals from the guitars really add this like really ugly coating to it. It kind of reminded me of there's a German band I've not heard in mega years. I'm not even sure they're even on the go anymore, but they were called Cassiopeia. They used a lot of that kind of like discord in their sound, especially in the guitar work and the lead work. Of course, there are moments on this release where they don't really take their foot off the gas at all. Midnight Creeper has that like quicker than a knife fight in a phone booth type formula, very grindy, hardcore infused, like a kind of Napalm Death meets Nails type attack. And then the like the opposite end of that spectrum, you have tracks like Futile, which it still ends up ferocious, but they do slow the pace right down initially and inject it with some kind of gloomy kind of lead work. I think aside from Repulse, my favourite track on the release was probably Scalped. And I think the reason I was drawn to that track slightly more was, aside from the absolute monster of an end riff it has, this track had more of a, I wouldn't say traditional, but a bit of a kind of more classic structure in some ways. It had more riffs that would kind of reoccur, that kind of really hooked me in. It also had some really great grooves on it that you just kind of can't help but get caught up in. Although the riffs on this album are great, I think there were a few songs that didn't really have as much of a formula as some of the others. Not typical like verse chorus type songs. Occasionally they'll repeat a verse, which is fine. That's, it's obviously the way Mastiff write, but at times I did feel like it kind of stopped me from it completely kind of hooking me in, because it's not an album with like big choruses or melody. So there was a couple of points during the album that I wasn't quite sure like what track I was on, because there's nothing that kind of overly repeats itself, and when it does, it's over really quickly. But as I say, the riffs are utterly punishing, and certain tracks like Repulse, for example, didn't necessarily need a typical hook to stand out. The riffs were actually memorable enough on their own on that track. And then the opening riff on Lung Rust is just another perfect example of that. I could totally imagine that being played live and everyone just losing their shit. It's a great opening riff. Production wise is probably my favourite from Mastiff so far. I think the balance of instrumentation and the overall mix was absolutely spot on in this. Nothing seemed too overpowering. The bass is really well situated on this too, which is something that can be often neglected. Sludge productions, they often focus on the guitar tone, because it kind of describes the sound, and the bass sometimes gets lost in that. But I could pick this out, no problem. And it's not overcooked either. It still sounds, naturally quite crushing, which is like in keeping with their previous releases. So, yeah, I enjoyed this. Duncan, what did you make of this one?
So I was really excited for this one because, much like yourself, Mastiff have been a band that have been on the peripherals of my interest for a little while now. I did not know they'd signed to a new label, and very much like yourself, congrats lads, because that is no mean feat. To sound like you do on a label as big as this is a great testament to the fucking hard work you've put in to get to that level, and totally deserving from this release. What's interesting is the opening track, the Hiss, it does have a slightly different production sound to the rest. And what was weird about it is that by the time the track had finished, I'd completely acclimated to that sound.
Yeah.
So I was like, alright, it's just a bit, kind of fuzzier than I was expecting, but that's fine. And then Fail kicked in, and like my jaw was scraping the floor in my room. I was just like, holy fuck. And that to me is genius, because it's not like an intro track. They're like, the Hiss is the track, but it's mixed, like grubbier than the rest, which is kind of grubby. I love that. That to me is clever and it's fun, but it's utilised perfect. So I thought that was great. What I liked about them, over and above what I've heard of them before, is I really think that their songwriting is just like on a different level now. I think the quick changes and what they are doing, like you mentioned, a bit of grind getting flung in there for sure. The elements are slightly more Blackened tinged, really, really suit them. But those kind of horrible sludgy moments that come in are all really well worked out. Sludge is a genre where you can afford to be... messy's not the right word, but you can afford to fuck around with your song structure a little bit and then play it off as a jam in the middle of a track and everything will be fine, come back whenever you want. And these guys don't seem to do that. Everything seems to be slotted for purpose, and I really, really enjoyed that. Vocally, oh dear God almighty, vocals, this is my favourite thing he's done. I think in terms of not only his production sound but his range and what he's doing, sounds absolutely great. His voice is just, it's horrible. Like the thing about, you were talking about like your ear canals being like for lack of a better word, fingered. Like, to me, it's just that the music kind of coats you. You kind of feel oily at the end of it. You kind of feel like you could go for a wee shower. And it kind of lingers on you. Like, even after it finished, I was sitting kind of thinking to myself, ooh, right, where to go next? You kind of need to put on a wee palate cleanse, a wee bit Weezer or something, just to get the edge off, you know what I mean? Because it's not a particularly long release,
No.
but you feel like you go through it with them, like every step of the way, which I loved. There's some real fun going on here. If I was them, I'd open with Lung Rust when they tour. That'd be an amazing opener. That opening riff is the tits, man. But that track is... It's a ball here under 8 minutes, and it never loses a step. Never loses a step at all. Very much like yourself. I mean, it's like picking favourite children. Most of the tracks here are excellent. Like ones that I genuinely... I've listened to the album 4 times, and every time I come back to it, I'm just like, yeah, this might be my favourite. And then the next time I'm on it, I'm like that. No, Midnight Creeper might be my favourite this time. And then Beige Sabbath is the greatest name for a fucking song ever, and I want to buy them a pint for that. Beige Sabbath, amazing. This is in my opinion the best thing they've done. I think what they've done is they've risen to the occasion on a better label, but not compromised 1 cent of their sound. Also, to from a larger label point of view, this is a good investment because this is a band that's only getting better album on album. I think this is. I once again, this is another one of these ones where I'm kind of smiling from ear to ear because I feel like that Blackened element that we are always talking about on these things is being added, is being used the right way, used the right amount, and the effects are absolutely, utterly devastating. And you mentioned the production, so I don't need to go over that again. I think this is fucking great. So loved it. Well done, Mastiff.
Awesome. Kyle?
This band is from Hull in the UK, right? And you can hear it in the music because that place. I've been there once.
Didn't you tell us that like Hull was picturesque? This is where people go for vacation. Wasn't it? It's a nice place, isn't it?
No, I've been there once.
Shithole. Shithole.
Fucking shithole. Yeah. And this sounds like Hull is. That's it. When you go there, this sort of music is hanging in the air, just following everybody around. Because everybody goes there and just waiting to die. So I completely get why this music sounds like this. I really do. So, no, this is... let's come at this from production, right? So the guitars sound like they were drenched in all the fuzz and then shoved an overdrive up the fuzz's ass and then recorded it with some really good microphones. The bass sounds about the same, just to a lesser extent, because it's there. It's not overpowering, but it's definitely, if you took the bass out of this record, the whole thing would just fall apart and it sound weak as fuck, which is what bass is meant to do, and is absolutely doing the most perfect job. And the bass player knows when to play and when not to play, and knows when to do what he needs to do, which is great. You don't hear that very often with bass players. Sometimes some of them overplay all the time, and some of them go, I know the root notes, and drag their knuckles on the floor. The vocalist, never heard him sound better. Not gonna lie, this might be his strongest performance so far, right? Just unbelievable. I couldn't, when it was like, okay, it's Mastiff, so I know what I'm gonna get, but then I didn't know I was gonna get, because this is like Mastiff but +1 or 2. And then it comes down to the drums always, doesn't it, with me? Every time we talk about an album, it's like, oh, what's the drums doing? Oh, how many dreams is he gonna kill now? Let me tell you. Not a single one.
Yes! yes.
Nice, raw, organic drums that sound great, like they were played by a person and not fucked with by a computer. So, from a production standpoint, loved it. First song, on the other hand, I've got to be honest with you, I was a little bit like, what the fuck? Like, have they gone black metal? What the hell? I didn't get it at all. Like, the vocal was really too low, and I just wondered what the hell was going on. And track 2 came, and I was like, well, there we go. What the fuck? But I don't know, it's a bit hit or miss, this album with me, like songwriting wise. Like you said, some things are sort of blended into another, and I was like, where are we in the album? And like, I wondered why it took them the entire album to get to the best couple of songs, which was Scalped and Lung Rust. I think they're the best songs on the entire album. I really do enjoy those quite a lot. I think they could have like I don't know, taken a couple out, or like reworked them a bit, made them a bit shorter, something like that, made the gaps between the songs a little bit more prominent. But that's the only gripe I've got. Otherwise, I really enjoyed it. It's fantastic, especially Beige Sabbath. It's such a great name.
It's such a great name.
It is, yeah.
It's up there with the Cancer Bats tribute band, which is Bat Sabbath, which I also love. Any play on that's awesome.
Yeah, I love bats too. Oh man, no, I quite enjoyed it. Apart from those just a couple things, just sort of like maybe go, nah. But it wasn't like it's not like this is a terrible album. I think it's Mastiff at their best, to be honest. They've absolutely leveled up, and they live in a shithole. So I mean, no wonder everything sounds like this. I think they even said that in their thing. So, and they've been locked in that shithole for a year and a half. So. I can imagine they're going to come out with some serious shit, and this album should have been called Serious Shit. It really does bring you down to their level of misery and bash you over the head for it for like half an hour, 45 minutes. I can't remember how long it is, but the last song is also 7 minutes long, but it doesn't feel like 7 minutes long.
No,
it really doesn't. Like when I got to the end of it, I was like, 7 minutes? It's when you know you've got a good song on your hands, is when you can listen to it and go, it's 7 minutes. Oh my god!
Track on the tour, Mastiff guys, listen to me. This is loads of smoke, tons of fucking smoke machines, fucking red lights, purple fucking purple lights on the stage. Can't see the band. Lung rust.
Yeah, there you go. I agree with that.
You're welcome.
Agreed.
I will take a small nominal fee for that suggestion.
You'll be in the next line note. It says part-time stage director.
guy that we listened to on YouTube.
Yeah. Dude, we're told to fuck off.
Oh man.
Okay. So last thing, ratings for this new album from Mastiff, Leave Me the Ashes of Earth. I'm not disappointed with this new release from Mastiff. It kind of delivered what I was expecting, and you can hear that they are becoming more and more comfortable in themselves as a band. This definitely came across as a band that feel more confident and 100% sure of how they want to sound. I also think it's definitely the best production they've ever had. Nothing felt kind of too loud, or the production just felt really level on this one. I really enjoyed it. As I said earlier, there was a few moments kind of similar to Kyle where I wasn't quite sure where I was in the album, if I was moved on to the next track or where I was, but there was definite standouts on the album that I really enjoyed as well. I'd probably go in with a 4 out of 5 on this one. Enjoyable album. Duncan, what are you thinking?
100% with you. This is a 4. This is my favourite thing they've done.
Yeah.
And I'm like super excited now. Bigger label behind them, hopefully more of a push onto more tours. Hopefully we won't have a huge amount of time before another release, and they are legitimately getting better release on release on release.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, it's that way where I get really excited that I'm hearing good news about a band that are doing cool things. So yeah, this is that 4. Once again, don't sleep on this one. At all, especially if anything we've mentioned in terms of genre or bands, as Sims like or whatnot, get on it and give these guys some support. So yeah, 4.
Kyle.
Yeah, 4 out of 5. I can't really fault it for too much. Just a couple of things, but that's it. It was really, really good. Do not sleep on it. It's a fantastic album. You should absolutely get it in your face and in your ears, especially if you like fingers going in your ears and in and out, in and out, in and out.
Some people, there's a sexual bent for everyone.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, Leave Me the Ashes of Earth. Sounds like Hull, apparently. Drops on the 10th of September on eOne. So you've got a wee bit time to wait yet before it comes out. But I'm sure they'll be dropping some singles and stuff up into the release of the album. If you want to check them out, facebook.com/Mastiff HCHC, I think. I'll leave a little link in the description below to their Facebook and to their Bandcamp and stuff, so you can check out the album. Let us know what you think once you've heard any of the singles. Once you've heard the album, drop some comments in below. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.